A few weeks ago, something happened in Abuja that barely made international headlines. Yet, several political insiders told us it could determine who controls Nigeria for the next decade. Not because of who won, but because of who lost and what it revealed. And if those insiders are right, the real battle may not even be about 2027 at all. On the surface, the story appears quite simple. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has officially secured the presidential ticket of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, positioning himself for yet another attempt at Nigeria's highest office. It will be his 7th presidential bid, a political journey spanning nearly 3 decades. But beneath that announcement lies a much larger question. Can Atiku finally unite enough political forces to challenge President Bola Tinubu? Or has Tinubu already reshaped the battlefield in his favor long before the contest has even begun? That question brings us to the first clue. According to official results announced by the ADC Primary Committee, Atiku defeated former Rivers Governor Rotimi Amechi and economist Mohammed Ayatollah to emerge as the party's candidate. Across Nigeria's 8,809 wards, party members participated in a nationwide direct primary. The headline the next morning was predictable. Atiku clinches ADC ticket, but another headline quietly emerged. Opposition unity in trouble. Just weeks before the primary, the opposition coalition that many hoped would challenge the APC suffered major fractures. Key political figures who had once been linked to the broader coalition project departed amid internal disagreements and legal disputes. The international observers began asking whether Nigeria's opposition was repeating the same mistakes that divided the opposition votes in the last election. And here is where the mystery deepens, because while the opposition was negotiating alliances, the ruling APC appeared focused on something else entirely: structure, control, timing, and power. Then veteran political correspondents in Abuja described it this way: the opposition has been discussing candidates, the APC has been discussing system. Whether one agrees with that assessment or not, several developments have fueled that perception. The first is the controversy surrounding election timelines. In May 2026, the Federal High Court nullified key aspects of INEC's revised timetable for 2027 elections, ruling that certain provisions conflicted with the Electoral Act. The judgment immediately intensified tensions between political parties and electoral authorities. Suddenly, questions emerged: who controls the calendar, who controls the process, and who benefits when political actors have fewer opportunities to switch parties after losing primaries. For years, Nigerian politics has been driven by defections. When a politician loses a primary, he simply changes parties and goes to contest elsewhere. But several recent reforms and legal interpretations appear to be narrowing the window for that move. Supporters say this strengthens party discipline, but critics argue it protects incumbents. The debate is far from settled. Yet, while lawyers battled in the courtroom, another drama was unfolding in public. The ADC began accusing the APC of preparing the ground for electoral manipulation. Party officials pointed to the political developments they described as troubling signals and warned supporters to remain vigilant. The APC has dismissed such claims, arguing that the opposition was already laying the foundation for post-election excuses. Neither side has presented conclusive proof. But in politics, perception can become as powerful as evidence, and perception is already shaping the 2027 race. Then came the rhetoric. As political rallies on television panels, in church pulpits, and across social media, the language became increasingly dramatic. Lekki, Lagos, the tropical morning heat was already rising over the Atlantic when the congregation settled into the plush seats of the House of the Rock Cathedral. It was mid-October 2025. From the pulpit, Pastor Paul Adefarasin looks out at thousands of worshippers. His voice, usually a smooth baritone of hope, suddenly turned to flint. He delivered 3 words that struck the room like a physical blow. Nigeria is dead. No caveats, no spiritual metaphors. Within 48 hours, a 45-second phone video racked up 4.2 million views on TikTok and X. By Monday night, hashtag Nigeria is dead was a top trending topic worldwide, from London to Houston. While the presidency scrambled to grab the sermon unpatriotic, the real panic was unfolding behind the high walls of the National Intelligence Agency, NIA, in Abuja. I have personally reviewed a classified internal brief dated October 30, 2025. In cold, bureaucratic prose, the intelligence analyst warned that Adefarasing had activated a dormant psychological trigger among the electorate, one capable of completely upending the 2027 voting pattern. The architecture of capture was not an isolated tremor. It was the fault line finally snapping. Speaking from our office overlooking Abuja, Dr. Obiageli Ezekwesili, the former World Bank Vice President for Africa, gave me a chilling diagnosis of the landscape. What we are witnessing is the surgical, institutional capture of every single democratic safeguard. She warned, if you think 2023 was the warning, you happen to be paying attention. The capture she referred to was already visible in the ledger books of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Over an intense 18-month blitz, the anti-graft agency launched a cascade of high-profile raids that paralyzed the political class. One former governor from the oil-rich South-South region was detained. 2 sitting senators from the volatile North Central zone were arrested. One billionaire financier, the primary engine room for opposition funding in 2019 and 2023, had his assets frozen. Publicly, the EFCC told the Punch newspaper on November 3, 2025, that they were merely cleaning out the system. But across town, in the diplomatic enclave of Abuja, Western intelligence saw right through the smoke. A leaked U.S. State Department cable circulated on November 19, 2025, put it bluntly. The coordinated timing of these arrests is stripping the opposition of its watchers and its most vocal champions. It called it a political pincer movement. If the EFCC raids were the scalpel to break the opposition dry, the newly amended Electoral Act was the tourniquet designed to suffocate them. In early 2026, President Bola Tinubu, a man whose entire career had been defined by chess master calculations, quietly signed a sweeping amendment that permanently locked the national timetable for party primaries. The trap was elegant in its severity. Under the new law, the window for party switching closes before the primaries conclude. If a candidate is cheated, sidelined, or outmaneuvered during their party's internal vote, they can no longer defect to a rival platform. Their block votes are effectively trapped, neutralized, and absorbed. On Valentine's Day 2026, a Guardian screamed with the headline, "Tinubu locked the exit door. Aggrieved politicians left no escape routes." The amendment effectively turns the political party system into a medieval fortress with only one key. Dr. Akin Oyebode, a veteran professor of constitutional law, told me. He didn't specify whose hand was on that key. In the humid air of Lagos, he didn't need to. The opposition's war chest is locked down, and only grassroots politicians can have any hope of surviving this political pincer movement. Because every election eventually becomes a referendum, not just on politicians, but on national mood. And right now, that mood remains unsettled. Inflation concerns, cost of living pressures, youth unemployment, security challenges, public frustrations. These issues continue to dominate discussions from Lagos to Kano, from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri, which is why another figure quietly became central to the story. The Minister of Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike. For months, Wike has remained one of the most influential and controversial figures in Nigerian politics. His political interventions have generated fierce reactions from allies and opponents alike. The recent controversies surrounding Rivers State politics and Governor Siminalayi Fubara only reinforced perceptions that Wike remains a power broker capable of influencing outcomes far beyond his scope in Abuja. The newly minted Nigeria Democratic Congress (NDC) is pulling strings across the nation's political spectrum, founded and fiercely bankrolled by the formidable political kingmaker, former Bayelsa State Governor and current Senator Seriake Dixon. The party has triggered a profound shift in Nigeria's complex democratic landscape. Behind closed doors in Abuja's elite political circles, analysts are unified on one crucial perspective. The strategic vaccinations of the NDC's primary stakeholders are aimed squarely at a much larger prize. This intense 2027 presidential campaign is not merely a bid for immediate executive power. It functions as an elaborate high-stakes infrastructure exercise designed to build nationwide momentum and capture absolute control in the 2031 general elections. Yet, serious internal friction persists within the party's ranks. Certain factions within the NDC still fail to grasp that the brutal realities of the 2027 electoral cycle leave absolutely no room for political vulnerabilities or weaknesses. The core truths of this internal struggle unfolded completely during the party's recent national primaries. In a ruthless display of political dominance, a specific loyalist bloc tied to a prominent alternative candidate was systematically and emotionlessly cut out of the party's decision-making architecture. It stands as a stark warning from the NDC leadership. In the high-stakes theater of Nigerian opposition politics, survival requires total discipline. The message many observers took from these developments was simple. The battle for 2027 is not just between parties, it is between alliances. Alliances of governors, alliances of legislators, alliances of financiers, alliances of loyalists. And few politicians understand alliances better than Tinubu. That reputation is not accidental. For more than 2 decades, Tinubu built one of the most formidable political machines in modern Nigerian history. From Lagos to the national stage, his influence expanded through alliances, negotiations, and strategic appointments. Even critics often acknowledge his political instincts. Which brings us to the most intriguing possibility of all. What if the president's biggest objective is not merely winning 2027? What if the larger objective is controlling who comes after him? Constitutionally, a second term could be Tinubu's final term. That means attention inevitably shifts towards succession. Who becomes the acceptable heir? Who inherits the structure? Who inherits the network? Who inherits the machine? History offers a warning. Political empires often struggle with succession. Around the world, powerful leaders have discovered that winning elections can be easier than managing what happens after they leave. And that may explain why several analysts increasingly view 2027 as the opening act of a much larger drama. A drama whose climax arrives in 2031. Meanwhile, Atiku faces a challenge of his own. At 79 years old, he enters the race carrying decades of political experience, enormous name recognition, and a loyal support base. Yet, he also carries the burden of history. Many voters already know what Atiku stands for. The question is whether enough Nigerians still believe he represents the future. His supporters argue that his experience is exactly what Nigeria needs. His critics argue that the country requires generational change. The numbers alone cannot answer that question. Only voters can. But as campaign preparations intensify, another name continues to surface in political conversations. Former President Goodluck Jonathan. Jonathan has not formally declared any presidential ambition. Yet his name repeatedly appears whenever discussions turn towards consensus candidates, transitional figures, and national unity options. Whether those conversations are serious political calculations or mere speculations remain unclear. What is clear is that uncertainty itself has become a political force, and uncertainty favors nobody. Not Atiku, not Tinubu, not the ADC, not the PDP, not even INEC. Because the closer Nigeria moves towards 2027, the more one reality becomes impossible to ignore. This election is no longer just about candidates. It's about institutions. It's about narratives. It's about legitimacy. It's about trust. And trust may prove to be the most valuable political currency of all. So where does that lead the race today? Atiku has secured his ticket. The ADC is positioning itself as the primary challenger. The APC retains the enormous advantage of incumbency. Court battles continue. Political alliances remain fragile, and powerful figures continue moving behind the scenes. Yet, the most important development may be something few people are discussing openly. Because every move we have examined, the legal disputes, the party restructuring, the anti-corruption persecutions, the primary election reforms, the defections, the coalition breakdowns, the growing influence of political kingmakers, all appear connected by a single thread. Not who wins in 2027, but who inherits Nigeria's political future after 2031. And according to several sources familiar with elite political calculations, there is already a name being whispered in private. A name that almost nobody is talking about publicly. A name that could explain why so many pieces of this puzzle suddenly seem to fit together. Who is it? And why are some of Nigeria's most powerful figures already preparing for a contest that officially does not exist yet?